Hi guys, I just wanted to talk to you about an upcoming assignment. It's called the Picture Book Assignment, and it is right here in our assignment that talks about 20% of our grade. So if we go down here, just scroll for a minute, know that this is the critical thinking assignment and the in-class presentation. So this is actually called a picture book assignment. If you had a friend who's taken the class, they may have spoke to you about it. And so this is, you click on picture book right at the very bottom, and this is explanation. So it's pretty much everything you would need to know. So the assignment explained is right here. It is in a PowerPoint format, and you can come back to these at any time. But this is the critical thinking. I'm sorry, it's wanting to download it 2 times. This is the assignment, and it's really, sorry that it's messing with us. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to choose a topic. So you could choose a topic like divorce, for example. It could be a science. It could be a holiday. It could be any subject that you would want to cover with your students. And you're going to choose 2 picture books, one fiction and one nonfiction. If you're having difficulty finding a nonfiction book, you can always use a children's encyclopedia and that you can find online. And then the third thing is you are going to complete the outline, the rough draft, the final draft, and eventually that will turn into a presentation. So let's talk about this just a little bit. The requirements, it's going to be 5 to 7 pages in length, your usual formatting. And then these are the sources you're going to use. You're going to use 2 picture books, one fiction, one nonfiction, the Indiana Department of Ed, and one other source to explain the importance of your topic. If you're talking about childhood obesity, for example, you're going to explain why you think it's important to cover it with your students. So if we come back to the assignment button itself, we will just go through and talk about it. So the outline, I think, is what's going to help you the most. And again, that will always be, this first step after finding your resources. Sorry, it's taking a bit of time. So the first thing that we're going to do is I want you to give me a justification for teaching the topic. And this should come from one of your background sources. So a background source might be an article about obesity in America if you're doing obesity. Any of these things, it could be the Indiana, and it should be as well, the Indiana Department of Ed standards. So if your book is 2nd grade reading level and it's about divorce, maybe you're going to talk about how it fits a social studies criteria or a reading comprehension criteria, whatever it might be. And then you're going to say, why is this topic useful to students? Well, it's important because students need to be healthy. Why is it a good idea to use picture books? And then you'll tell me about that. And then you'll go through and you'll give an analysis of each picture book. So when it says style, written text, diction, it's like the way things are presented. Are there short, small sentences? Do they have, a sort of specialized vocabulary if it's a science assignment? Talk about the subject matter, the major themes in there. Maybe if it's divorce, maybe it's talking about compassion and good mental health and acceptance or whatever. And then other points of interest or uniqueness about the actual picture book. You're going to talk to me about the illustrations. What were they like? Were they watercolors? Were they realistics? Were they cartoonish? Anything that you think is interesting. Maybe they gave charts and graphs. The audience. So this is where you talk about the grade level, and you can usually put the grade level in. You can give an estimate as well. And you're talking about the strengths and the weaknesses. What makes it effective, right? What makes it worth reading? Discuss the age level of the book. And that's where your Indiana Department of Ed guidelines will come into. What are you addressing? Book number 2, the same thing. And then you'll go through here and you will tell me about a comparison contrast. How do the books complement each other? Where are you using them in the same unit? What does one book have that the other doesn't? And then the expected results. Do you think that it will go well? Do you think that there will be follow-up questions? Do you think if you're talking about divorce, will you need the assistance, approval of your principal and maybe the help of the school guidance counselor? And then you'll just summarize your finding and encourage your audience, who your audience are, other educators. Pretend that you're giving a workshop to other teachers. And then the secondary choice will be the book review of choice, education about learning. If we come back here, once again, I give you source help. So I know that we can't get to the library, but there are So many resources. Even if you just Google free children's book online, you'll come up with a variety. This I thought was a really great source because it linked us to some really good sources, through here that you can just really quickly get to them. You can also go to your local library and see if you can view a book online. You can go to the VU library and do the same. But these are some additional sources. Many of you may already have picture books at your house, and that's fine. All you need to do is maybe find a children's encyclopedia. These are curriculum standards. So if you go to the Indiana Department of Ed, you will be able to come up with the state standards, and you'll be able to choose by grade level. Maybe you're thinking, I'm going to do a social studies unit. And then you're going to come around here and you are going to find, the standards for the grade level. Maybe you're going to do, third grade, and then you'll be able to come up with the standards and the standards that you think that it fits. Okay. Local community and regional activities. Again, they give you example like 3.1 and 3. Describe the role of the local community, other communities, and development of the state's regions. Could be a history lesson, but you'll be able to come up with these, I think, fairly easily. If you have problems, let me know. But that's how you find the curriculum standards that you need to address. And then we also have books. Whenever we talk about addressing a diverse group of learners, it's a good idea to, I've talked about, and we've talked about it previously as well, this idea of kinesthetic, auditory, and visual learners that you can address. And those are articles about it. There's sort of, wow, there's a lot of information on this, but you should be able to come up with a lot of resources. You can use a PowerPoint and like you had before, maybe use me as a reference like you did maybe in the Alice in Wonderland. Sorry, it takes a while, but you remember when we did this, you can reference that. But you really want to talk about how am I going to connect this lesson about, divorce to the kinesthetic, the visual, and the auditory learner, for example. And you can find resources online at the VU library. And I think that will happen there. We go back to explanation. I give you an example of how students completed outlines. Sorry that this is taking a bit. It will eventually come. My apologies. And so this person talked about divorce and she gave the justification. These are the secondary sources that she's using. So she's quoting the Department Standards Grade 2 English Language Arts. She talked about marriage statistics. These are the 2 books that she used. She talks about the strengths and the weaknesses, the comparison and contrast, the expected results, future plans, things like that. Another thing that I would like to talk about, and I asked for permission from these students, so we can take a picture book and we can scroll through the bottom. And so there's a more lengthy explanation of the picture book. And if you think that that would be useful, please go ahead and read it. I just like to condense it. But eventually, this is how you're going to be graded. So the thing that we're looking for justification, essay successfully justifies the subject's place in the elementary curriculum and the use of picture books as an educational tool. Okay, so this is where your Indiana Department of Ed standards come in, and a justification of why you're teaching at that background source. Why is it important to talk about obesity in America, for example? Essay identifies many of the book's techniques and thoroughly explains how they enhance or distracts. That's where the strengths and the weaknesses come in. Essay clearly identifies a lesson and an audience definitely explains how students might decode the text, right? If there's a scientific jargon, maybe you're going to tell students to look up at the terms in the thesaurus or work in small groups to do so. As to how the teachers would guide a diverse group of students. How are you going to address those auditory, kinesthetic, and visual learners? Organization, we always talk about organization, using sophisticated transitions, grammar, standard. Sources are well chosen, correctly cited. These were the in-text citations, and definitely employed. That means that if you're using a quote, you're introducing the quote, giving it, and then describing its significance. We've talked about the quote breakers in the past as well. So, and we'll go through all of the same steps as we normally do. And then I have a student sample. I'm sorry that it's taking a bit. And so this one was about spiders, and they talk about the standards and how things rate, the national standards, and how things work. You can take the time to look through that to give you a good idea. And then this is the presentation. So all after this, it'll turn into a presentation. You can do this via PowerPoint. You can do a YouTube video with a visual. So the video has exceptionally attractive formatting and well-organized information. Again, I'm willing to work with you in any way that I can to get this done. The video has all the required information on the checklist. And the checklist is going to be the outline of the essay. All the grammar looks good and the graphics go well with the text, and there's a good mix of text and graphics. Remember that I want to see less text and more speaking and explanations. And I think that is the project in a nutshell. We'll take it step by step. If you have any questions, of course, you can ask me, and I will talk to you very soon.